Welcome to the channel, I'm Winters and welcome to this review video for the Solar Auxilia. Solar Auxilia are the 30k Horus Heresy version of the Astra Militarum or Imperial Guard, and this review video is a guest review video. I didn't record it, it was recorded by a friend of mine called Rob, so I thought I'd just quickly introduce it going in so you guys didn't wonder where the hell has Winters gone. First guest review video on the channel. There might be a couple more of these, we'll see what the reception is like. Why am I doing this as well? I'm doing this because, as Rob pointed out to me, it's very difficult to find a decent Solar Auxilia review video on the internet. And I figured there would probably be a number of you out there very interested in seeing what the Solar Auxilia are like. I know there's a few review videos for 30k Legion out there, but not for the Auxilia. So this is it. I liked it. Watched it all the way through. You know, a good review video is one that when you finish watching it you suddenly want to collect Solar Auxilia, and I do, but money. So anyway, here's a good review video and I hope you enjoy. I'll see you at the end. I'll see you at the end, the other end of it.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rob. My blog is called 30k plus 40k, which you can find at 30k plus 40k equals infinity.blogspot.com. I've done a lot of written reviews on the blog, but today's the first time that I'm going to do a video review, and the reason for this is because the Solar Auxilia, whose rules you'll find in this lovely Crusade Imperialis Red Book, or the Horus Heresy Book 4, don't have a lot of resources online, to be perfectly honest. 1d4chan Tactics, they've got quite a lot of good stuff on the Solar Auxilia, and most armies, to be perfectly frank. But not much else is out there, so I thought, why not plug that hole and just do a quick overview of what you might expect in the Solar Auxilia book, and what those units do on the battlefield, how you might take them, a very broad overview, no sort of specifics about how you might build any given character, but just give you an idea, basically. This is the Red Book, so this gives you all the truncated rules, essentially, without all the fluff. £32, beautifully produced from Forge World, really nice quality book. You get a nice little red ribbon for keeping your place in the book, and the rules in this book are for the Solar Auxilia, the Imperial Militia, and the Questoris Crusade army list. Just be doing the Solar Auxilia today, but in future videos I will be doing both breakdowns of individual units and different builds that you could do, and also go over the Imperial Militia and the Questoris Crusade units, because they don't have as much internet space time as the Legiones Astartes and the Mechanicum Tagmata do. So, just jump right in here. So, start off on the Solar Auxilia Crusade army list. In all the red books you get this basic overview page which tells you about battles in the Age of Darkness as an expansion to the Warhammer 40,000 rules. So you do need your Warhammer 40,000 rulebook to go with this, and there's a few different aspects here compared to a CAD, for example, that you'd find in 40k, but I'm not going to cover those. And we'll just go straight on to Solar Auxilia special rules and what they really do for you in game. So the Solar Auxilia have a few important kind of universal special rules that really change how you might approach it and deliver your units on the battlefield. The first of these is Discipline Fire, which is essentially the same as Grim Resolve with the Dark Angels in 40k, which allows them to overwatch at Ballistic Skill 2, but that's only with pistol, assault, rapid fire weapons, but that's most of your weapons that your infantry are going to have anyway. So that's good. It helps dissuade your opponent from charging particularly big blob squads of 20 men who are all going to be hitting on 5s and 6s in Overwatch. You've also got Close Formation Fighting, so if any friendly units are in base contact with this special rule, if both models have the special rule, then they gain +1 weapon skill. That makes you a lot more survivable in combat, because you're going to be being hit on 4s rather than 3s mostly, because you'll be weapon skill 4 to a Marine standard weapon skill 4. And then some of the elite units, they can go up to weapon skill 5, which means you'll still be getting hit on 4s, but you have a good chance of hitting them back on 3s. Very tasty. Another important rule is discipline command. And what this means is it sets out a hierarchy for how the Auxilia organise their ranking system, and it defines, based on the choices you've made in your army list, who's going to be the warlord. So if you pick a certain ranking character, they will be your warlord. And so that is important when considering which units you take and how you equip them. If you take a Lord Marshal, they're always going to be your warlord. So there's no point taking a Lord Marshal and not equipping him with some kind of survivability. Otherwise, you're going to be giving away warlord on a very squishy toughness 3 model quite easily. So that does play into sort of how you're going to equip units and how easy it is for your opponent to get Slay the Warlord, which is pretty much always a tertiary point in all the Age of Darkness basic missions. Warlord traits. There's some really good ones in here. Number 4 is called Blind Barrage, and that lets you give all Solar Auxilia units, friendly units, shrouded in the first game turn. 5+ cover save and open. That's always a good job. And that's going to apply to your tanks as well as your units. So if you're in cover, ruins, 4+ save, shrouded, 2+ cover save, jobs are good. Couple of crap ones. Number 3, your Warlord gains hatred in a challenge. You're not going to kill anyone really with your Warlord. There are exceptions to that, but we'll get on to why you probably wouldn't want to put your Warlord into a challenge and when you would. You got Eternal Warrior. You can twin link an ordnance weapon. Warlord gains stubborn, and the unit gains a move through cover, which is handy if you're going on a ruins heavy table, which, or terrain heavy table, which, is ideal. And then Siege Master, you can break a piece of terrain and take its cover save down by -1. Always handy. But the real good ones here are Eternal Warrior for your Warlord and Blind Barrage to give yourself shrouded. Really, really tasty, that one. You've got a few pages here of all the different rules for all your different weapons and special war gear. You get your allies matrix against all the different legions and the Mechanicum. You've got plenty of Swarm Brothers. I'm personally not that inclined to take allies, but nothing against them. For other people, just fluff-wise, I like to go with pure armies. But you've got a lot of Swarm Brothers and fellow warriors, so plenty to choose from, which aren't going to impede how you manoeuvre as an army very much. Then you've got a nice summary table giving you all the basic stats to read off from for your weapons, which is specific to the Horus Heresy. So this won't have your bolt guns, your auto guns, anything like that. It just has all your 30k specific weapons, as well as a few non-specific, like the Demolisher Cannon, and then all your special rules that go with it. And then you just go straight into your HQ choices. So your primary HQ choice is your Legate Commander, and this is sort of your general, your standalone single model general, who you could upgrade to a Lord Marshal. So the basic commander comes in 45 points, pretty cheap. But if you don't have anyone higher ranking than him, he's going to be your Warlord, and 45 points with a 4+ save, toughness 3. He's going to be dead very quickly. He's only got 5+ invuln to begin with. I would always recommend take the Lord Marshal upgrade. It'll cost you 85 points for a Legate Commander with a 2+ armor save and a 3+ invulnerable. It'll cost you 95 points for a Lord Marshal who's got better attacks, better leadership, better initiative, and with that 90 points you can give him a Displacer Matrix. And the Displacer Matrix is the single best piece of war gear in this entire book. It gives you a 3+ invulnerable, but if you roll a 1, you don't take a wound, you don't die, you go up into ongoing reserve, and then you deep strike the next turn. any deep strike mishap when you land, you die instantly, you're removed from play. But pretty much every unit in this book can take a Nuncio Vox, which means you don't deep strike scatter within 6 inches of a Nuncio Vox, pretty much guaranteeing his survival as long as you've got the Nuncio Vox on the table at the beginning of the turn. So that's something to consider. If you're throwing a Warlord into a challenge, or if you're throwing him somewhere where he's in line of fire, make sure you get out a Nuncio Vox in cover to allow him to deep strike the next turn. Very, very survivable, fantastic piece of war gear. But even better, as well as only costing 10 points more, 10, 15 points more for an improved stat line and that piece of war gear, you also get to choose your Warlord trait as a Lord Marshal. So you can choose Eternal Warrior. So if you want to build around a very tough to kill Warlord point, take a Lord Marshal, give him Eternal Warrior, give him the invuln save, and then your opponent's going to have to dedicate some serious firepower to take those 3 wounds off him, particularly if you've put him with any kind of bodyguard unit. Additionally, the Lord Marshal can take a special unit called the Household Retinue, which turns one of your troop choices, the Velataris Storm section, into elites. They get +1 to weapon skill, making the weapon skill 4 base, which then goes up to weapon skill 5 because of the close formation fighting special rule. And you can give them power axes, which is pretty good, to be honest. Put them up against Terminators with power fists, and you're going to be chucking out somewhere in the region of 20 power axe attacks, 21 power axe attacks at initiative 1, strength 4, AP 2, probably hitting on 3s, wounded on 4s. You'll probably wipe out a Terminator squad of 5, 6, 7 men, and they'll cost a lot more than your Household Retinue will. I really like this guy. I take a guy and I tool him up with a Paragon Blade, so he's got the chance to insta-kill pretty much anything on a 6, which is about 100 something points. Really, really cool. Lord Marshal Iraton Massard, the only special HQ character in the book. He's okay. He's 155 points, which is very pricey for a toughness 3 character that only has a 4+ invulnerable save. He does have a 2+ armor save, and he does have it will not die, but any strength 6 AP2 weapon that comes through is going to squish him on a 50-50 dice roll. But he has a few tricks up his sleeve. So he has the Protector of Agathon, which means that any unit that dies the first time it dies, on a roll of a 5 or a 6, that same unit goes into ongoing reserve and comes on the next turn. So essentially you can recycle units. This doesn't apply to dedicated transports, Lords of War, or it just says unique unit. Not quite sure how you define unique unit, whether or not that's a special character or if it's just a rapier or something. I'm not quite sure, but certainly with all your troops, 5 or 6, they're going to be coming straight back on the next turn, which does provide extra kill points, but at the same time it's giving you more flexibility in bringing units back, and you're not quite out of the fight. Additionally, his Warlord trait lets you redeploy D3 units after deployment but before the game starts, and that can take them into reserve and out of reserve. So there's a fair amount of tactical flexibility there, but not because you've got a 1 in 3 chance for returning units, and you've got a 1 in 3 chance of only being able to redeploy 1 unit. It's not something that you can really build your tactics around, compared to this guy, who for a lot cheaper you can pick your Warlord trait. So you could pick Eternal Warrior if you want to build around that, or you can pick Blind Barrage if you want to build around having that 5+ cover save in the open in the first turn. So by all means, this guy's not bad, this guy's better. Only Loyalist factions can take Lord Marshal. He's the grand old general that comes out of retirement. Lovely illustrations in the background, grayscale here of the models, really, really nice production. For your other 2 HQ choices, you have a Tactical Command section, which is your basic kind of Imperial Guard command section, platoon command, that sort of thing. You've got a 2+, you've got a 2 wound Strategos, Vexillarius, and a Proclamator. The Vexillarius is just carrying a Vexilla and gives you morale rerolls. The Proclamator has a Nuncio Vox for those deep strike shenanigans. And then you've got a couple of veterans, and you can take additional veterans and give them special weapons. These guys can take a Dracosan armored transport or an Auxilia Arvis lighter shuttle. Take the Dracosan transport because the lighter's crap, and we'll get onto that later. The Strategos has a orbital bombardment once per game, strength 9 AP2, ordnance 1, barrage pinning, large blast. That's very nice, and with the Nuncio Vox you can make sure that's really, really precise without having to get this guy out and put him in threat range by using his line of sight. The best weapon you can take for these guys is actually the grenade launcher, because metal gun's going to cost you 10 points, plasma gun's going to cost you 15 points. The grenade launcher, 3 of them, will cost you 5 points each, 15 points total, and they come with a haywire round, so you've got much better anti-tank capabilities compared to a melter gun with the prevalence of armoured ceramites. So grenade launchers, very, very good on these guys. These are a good secondary HQ unit, but not as good as this one. This is an Auxilia tank commander, and you can upgrade any of the Lehman Russ variants, the Malcador tanks, the Valdor tank destroyer, and then 3 or 4 of the Baneblade variants. And basically, that gives those tanks ballistic skill 4. It lets them fire Overwatch, including with flamer templates. It lets them fire Overwatch with any of the weapons that are in the arc of the charging units. And it also gives them a special rule from the tank A selection, so you can have tank hunters, it will not die, scout move through cover, a few other ones for enemy infantry. And what these can do is make an already specialised tank even better at that job. Tank hunters, stick that on a Lehman Russ Vanquisher, then you've got an Armour Bane strength 8 shot, which you can reroll to pen with, which makes it very, very likely that anything you shoot, you've got a pen, and then you've got a chance to blow it up. But it's a support officer, you can't take it as your compulsory HQ choice in a primary detachment. But if you want to take Auxilia as an allied detachment for the Legiones Astartes or the Mechanicum, then this guy can fulfill that compulsory slot. So he's a very cheap way of upgrading a tank, which you were already going to take in the allied detachment. 55 points, give it some special rules, better ballistic skill, really good. Or because you've got the 3 HQ slots in the Age of Darkness Force Organisation chart, then you could take a Legate Commander, beef him up as much as you want, then you could upgrade 2 tanks with 2 tank commanders, and that's I think that's a really good point investment. I recommend these heartily. Elites. You've only got 4 elite sections. I'll quickly run through them, they're not all that special. You've got Medicaid detachment, 3 Medicaid orderlies that you could attach to a command section, or any of your troop choices, gives them 5+ feel no pain. It's not bad if you've got big blob squads. The las rifle sections are 20-man squads. One of these guys is essentially 20 points, that's 1 point per model for feel no pain, 5+. Strength 6 fire is going to invalidate that, but they're not a bad points investment if you're running big blob squads and stuff like that. Not so keen on them for the elite stuff because of the averages and the way things are working out. I don't think you get so much use out of them. Rapier batteries, 35 points, come with quad multi-lasers, so you've got a lot of sort of low strength anti-infantry fire there, and you can upgrade them with laser destroyer arrays, quad mortars, with frag and shatter shells. You don't get some of the more choice shell types that the Legiones Astartes have. And you can also give them graviton cannons. These can get expensive very quickly, but you can have 3 rapier teams per battery, and you've got 4 elite choices, so you could have 12 of these taking up your entire elite slots, and that could put down a hell of a lot of fire. But if you upgrade everything to its maximum, that's going to be 800-900 points just for your elites, but that is a shit sort of firepower coming out here, and you're still hiding behind a toughness 7, 2 wound, 3+ save artillery piece, so they're relatively survivable compared to most other things in this book, essentially. Very quickly, you've got the engines here, Auxilia. They're just your regular engineers. Their job is to go around and fix tanks. You get 4 servo automata with them. Give them servo arms for +1s to your repair rolls, and these guys will fix your tanks all day long. Particularly important, I think, if you're taking any of the Baneblade variants as Lords of War, because it'll just keep them chugging and chugging unless they get smashed by a D weapon. If you give one of them a Cortex controller, these guys also allow you to take Thalax and Castellax in the heavy support slot. They're not bad choices at all, but you have much better heavy support options, which you will see. These guys are really, really cool. They make 40k Ogryns look like pansies. 185 points for 3 of the guys, 55 points for every additional one. Each one's got 3 attacks, 5 attacks on the charge because they've got 2 Charonite claws. You'll be attacking at strength 6, AP 3, and every to hit roll of a 6, because of the Flesh Ripper special rule, is going to be AP 2 and treated as instant death. So these guys can mulch through, 2 wound Terminators fairly well. With weapon skill 4, they've got 6+ feel no pain, toughness 5, so they're not going to be instant killed by any strength 8 power fists. But they're only leadership 6. You've got to stick a independent character with them to make them worth it. But the big problem with them is they're very bulky, and the only transport you can stick those very bulky things in is one of the Baneblade variants with a transport capacity. So really you want to put them in a Stormlord, which has a transport capacity of 40, and it's an assault vehicle, and that suddenly makes these a vast points investment to actually make them do anything, because at toughness 5, walking across the field very slow with an independent character in it, 1 demolisher cannon with big bases as well, so it's going to cover a lot of them. You can't space them out all too well, and boom, instant death. So I love them. I really love the models. They're fantastic. They're huge. They have these big claws. But unless you really invest in them, they're not going to do that much. That's my gut feeling anyway. I've not played them. If anyone else has had good luck with them, comment below. I'd love to hear success stories with these guys, because they're just awesome. Apart from the slowness, crappy leadership, and but look up the models. Beautiful. Alright, troops. So with the troops you have something called Tertio, which is comprised of 1 to 3 sections. So 1 troop slot can have 3 units in it. So your troops, 6 troop slots, you could have 18 units. And you have a choice between a las rifle section, a storm section, and a flamer section. The flamer section is just 10 guys with flamers. Really, really good. 10 flamers over any unit, that's going to be a shit ton of wounds, and you're probably going to do a lot of damage to them. It's just forcing a lot of saves there. Plus, no one wants to charge 10 flamers, because that could be 30 hits charging in on that. Valzara Storm section, these are your elites. Ballistic skill 4, so you're hitting on 3s, 5s on Overwatch, and you've got a 15-inch range Volkite weapon, a standard, Assault 2, Strength 5, AP 5, Deflagrate, so you can generate additional wounds for every unsaved wound from that weapon. You can swap them out for rotor cannons. I've proxied that, and the Strength 3 versus the Strength 5. Yes, you've got slightly increased range, but I'd really stick with the Volkite weaponry. Plus, there's no official upgrade modelling bits for the rotor cannons, and these are beautiful models as they are, so leave them be. You can also upgrade them with power axes. I don't recommend that unless you take them as a household retinue, which gives you that increased weapon skill. So you're going to be fighting at weapon skill 5 for the regular guys, weapon skill 6 for the prime. And then you could chuck your warlord in there, stick them in a vehicle, and they become quite tasty close combat units. Then you have your basic las rifle section. The ballistic skill 3, so you're hitting on 4s, and your weapons aren't, altogether that strong, but you've got 20 of them for 100 points. It's just a really cheap unit. Now, for each of the sections you select, you have to take either a Dracosan armoured transport or an Aegis defence line with them. With the Velataris Storm section and the Flame section, I take a Dracosan armoured transport, which we'll show you in the page next. They are really beefy transports. They're not assault vehicles, but they're very survivable. With these guys, I would be tempted to stick them behind an Aegis defence line, cap objectives, cap the backfield, you know, dissuade deep strike, that sort of thing, because then you can also give it the same upgrades that you can give an Aegis defence line of 40k, so quad las cannon, Icarus array, give you some anti-air capability if you don't want to actually take any flyers, but you have good flyer options in Solar Auxilia. The most important thing to note after that is with the flame sections, you can only take one of these if you take a las rifle section, so you can't just load up on flamer sections because they're a support unit essentially. With that in mind, and because I didn't want to paint a crap ton of units essentially, I've just gone for the storm section to put them in Dracosan armoured transports. These you know, base leadership 8 with your sergeant leadership 9, they're not going to run anywhere. They're going to hit on 3s, strength 5 weaponry. These guys can do really well against Marines, really, really well. You can give them a shroud bomb, which means that any unit that wants to charge them has to pass a leadership test. If they're fearless or they ignore fear, that doesn't affect them, but it just makes them that bit harder to charge. And if they attempt the charge, fail the leadership test, you still get to Overwatch at Ballistic Skill 2 with your Strength 5 weaponry. These are a really, really good unit. So you got your Aegis defense line, 50 points. You can take all the regular upgrades, ammo dump, comms relay, all that sort of stuff. I don't think I need to go over, you know, all the benefits these things can really bring to your force. You've got 2 different dedicated transports. You've got the Arvis lighter, 3 hull points, 11, 11, 10. You can give it a flare shield to make it 12, 11, 10, but it can't take a lot of weapons. It can only carry 12 models, and it's not an assault vehicle, so I don't, unless you're saving points, unless you're going for a theme thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, these models are really nice. I don't see why you wouldn't take one of these, essentially, because this is armor 13, 12, 11. It's 5 hull points, and it takes 20 people. And it's got Explorator adaptation, which means you reroll failed dangerous terrain tests. It's a built-in dozer blade. It doesn't have any fire points, but it comes as standard with a twin-lit las cannon. Your ballistic skill 3, so the twin-lit las cannon's tasty. But more importantly, for 30 points, you can upgrade that to a demolisher cannon. It reduces the transport capacity to 10, but if you're taking a storm section, that's only 10 models anyway. And then you've got a Vindicator carrying troops around with better armour, with more hull points. And you can give it a flare shield and armoured ceramite. So you can make it armour 14, 12, 11, 5 hull points, immune to ranged melter, has a demolisher cannon, and it's got 10 guys inside with strength 5 weaponry. I mean, I think that's cracking. Model's also beautiful. It's down here at the bottom. You can see it's got the twin-lit las cannon there. I have 4 or 5 of these, really, really nice, great models, very, very durable. I mean, 5 full points is a lot to take off a vehicle. Yes, things can get behind it, and it's only rear armour 11, but you want to push forward with demolisher cannons anyway, and because it's a scatter weapon, your ballistic skill 3 isn't that important. You've still got the same chance to get a direct hit on the hit dice, so I recommend these. These, I think, are shit. So, on to fast attack. First things first, we've got the Tarantula Sentry Gun Battery. With skill 3, toughness 6, 2 wounds, 3+ save. They come with heavy bolters that you can upgrade to all the same things that you can upgrade the Legiones Astartes. Apart from the decrease in ballistic skill, these are exactly the same. So you've got las cannons, multi-lasers, heavy flamers, rotor cannons, and the Hyperius air defense missile launcher for a bit of anti-air. All around nice, cheap guns in fast attack. You can have 3 guns per choice, so you could stack out with 9 of these. But if you're going to go for anything in fast attack and you want to have an army which is capable of dealing with air and ground targets, I wouldn't take these for any of your anti-air capabilities. I would take a Thunderbolt Heavy Fighter. The Thunderbolt, 3 hull points, ballistic skill 4, 11, 11, 10. It is 200 points, but for your 200 points it already comes kitted out with everything you really need. 2 twin-linked autocannons, a twin-linked las cannon, an armoured cockpit, a chaff launcher for an invulnerable against missiles, and it comes with 4 kinetic piercer missiles, strength 6, AP2, armour bane, heat seeker, so that's you can't jink against it. And they're missiles, so you can, your opponent can get a chaff launcher save against them. But really good. It's got simulacral repair, so it's basically it will not die light. So on a 6, you can restore a hull point. And it's got a deep strike, supersonic, makes it a bit faster, and it's got combat interdiction. So if your opponent's already got flyers on, you can reroll failed reserve rolls on this. The only thing you probably want to upgrade it with is either or both of the ground tracking auguries for strafing run and flare shields to make it a 12, 11, 10, 3 hull point flyer. Beautiful model, really good. Expensive, but I think you get your points worth with this. On this side we've got a Lehman Russ Strike Squadron. That's your battle tank, your exterminator, your annihilator and your vanquisher. 14, 13, 10, 3 hull points. But these guys have explorator adaptation as well, so essentially a dozer blade. They've got outflank, which is really nice, and they have induction charger, which lets you make them fast once per game for a single turn, which is great for getting side armor or getting around cover to get clear shots. It's a nice little bit of extra juice compared to the 40k variants. If you're taking tanks, I would rather take tanks in the heavy sports slot, and if you want something in fast attack, then I think the Thunderbolt is the best choice you actually have in fast attack. But if you want to go super tank heavy, you can go loads of tanks in fast attack, loads of tanks in heavy support. It really depends on how you want to build your army there. But these are both very good choices for tarantulas. Not a bad choice either. It's very light on the points for the tarantulas as well. And then in terms of other flyers, you've got the Primaris Lightning Strike Fighter. It's 65 points cheaper than the Thunderbolt, but that's with a single twin-link las cannon. It comes with Agile, so you're jinking on a +1, so it's a 3+ jink. But you've got the ballistic skill of 4, you've got the same weak frame of 11, 11, 10. You can't give it a flare shield, so it stays 11, 11, 10. You can't bump it up to 12 like you can with the Thunderbolt. It's only got 2 hull points. Once you've given it any kind of decent equipment loadout, it's going to cost you the same as or more than the Thunderbolt. It's a really nice flyer. It's very pretty. I just don't think it's worth the points compared to the Thunderbolt. It's more flexible than the Thunderbolt. You can take things like a Phosphex bomb cluster. You can take a variety of different missiles. You can give it twin-linked autocannons. You've got three hard points to attach weapons to. So you can pimp it out, but 2 hull point, it's just a really flimsy frame to put a lot of points into. At least with the Thunderbolt, you can take that flare shield for some extra armor on the front, and you've got that extra hull point for survivability. So I prefer the Thunderbolt for these guys. These aren't bad, but they're really expensive investment in points for something that can very easily get pinged out of the sky. Moving on to heavy sports. You've got your basic heavy sports here. You've got a Lehman Russ Assault Squadron. This is your Demolisher, Executioner and Incinerator variant. The Incinerator is a 30k specific variant which has a Volkite demi-culverin. That's really good, really good. I think it's strength 7, 5 shots, something like that. Deflagrate, so you can just march through infantry with it. You've got your Explorator adaptation again, but very importantly, you've got an extra point of armor at the back compared to your fast attack Lehman Russ and tanks, and you've also got an additional hull point. The same amount of hull points as a Land Raider. It makes him much more survivable, much harder to ping all those hull points off. Even if it's just it takes that one more haywire shot to take a hull point off. It's really good. You can take Armoured Ceramite as well, make them immune to ranged melter, which is very tasty unless they get in the rear arc. But the big benefit here is coordinated fire protocols. So any 2 tanks from the same squadron, if they shoot at the same unit, +1 ballistic skill, which puts you up to ballistic skill 4, which just means that you're going to be hitting that much more, and it makes you inclined to take the same kind of tanks in a squadron. So no mixing and matching, because you can't give them split fire with orders like you might be able to do with the Imperial Guard. But if you stick 2 incinerators together, then you can have 14 shots, something like that, with ballistic skill 4, hitting on 3s rather than 4s, and you can just destroy infantry and light tanks with these incinerators. The incinerators as well have a slightly modified chassis to fit the 30k aesthetic, and they're really beautiful. I think these are great, but there are better options still in heavy support. Over here, you've got artillery tanks. You've got the Basilisk, the stalwart of the Imperial Guard, 40k. But then you also have the Medusa and the Bombard, and some of these go up to 7-inch blasts with AP3, strength 6 AP3, I think, for the Auxilia Bombard, 7-inch blast. Much weaker armour, 13, 12, 10. You've only got the 3 hull points, but because they are all blasts, you have that 1 in 3 chance on the to hit dive, rolling a hit. So and you can give them Armoured Ceramite as well, but you probably want to just keep these cheap stock, stick them at the back of the field, because I think the Basilisk and the Bombard, certainly not the Medusa, have minimum ranges of 12 or 24, so you want to keep these very far back from your opponent and just pound shells onto them. I quite like these from a fluff point, the idea of having an artillery tank at the back, but I like big and beefy personally, and in the heavy support of the Solar Auxilia, my god, you get big and beefy. Markador heavy tank, Markador Infernus. Super heavy tanks in your regular heavy support slots. The Markador heavy tank, it's got battle cannons. You can take demolisher cannons, las cannons, flare shields, Armoured Ceramite. You can give it siege armour at the front. Well, you lose the fast special rule, but you're a super heavy, so you move 12 anyway. So you can have 14, 13, 12 armour, 6 hull points. Give it a flare shield, makes it 15, 13, 12, 6 hull points. Or if a blast hits the front armour, 16, 13, 12, 6 hull points. Very survivable. And you can put a lot of points into this, but you get a lot of firepower out of it. Super heavy, you can shoot those at all different targets. This is a really good choice. Bliss skill 3, however, makes this a better choice. Hellstorm templates. That's a 16.5-inch template. 18-inch torrent. 18-inch torrent. That's 34.5 inches from the beginning of the Hellstorm to the end of the template. Plus you've got your 12-inch movement on top of that. So that's 46.5-inch potential maximum range to the end of the templates. Your basic template, strength 7, AP3, primary weapon, basically makes it ordnance, so this is very good at taking out light tanks, rhinos, that sort of thing. And because it's a template, your ballistic skill of 3 doesn't really matter. You're just going to, plonk it over, ignore cover. You don't have to roll to hit. This is a fantastic tank for making up for the guards lacking higher ballistic skill. It's got special rules. Highly flammable means it just goes kaboom when it actually does lose its last hull point. It's got some sponsor-mounted auto cannons, but you can take las cannons, heavy flamers there if you want. Take armoured ceramite, definitely recommend that because its armour's a bit weak, 13, 12, 11. But you've got the 6 hull points, and then the real nasty. The real nasty is the chem upgrade you can give it. 25 points, you can turn that from a strength 7 AP3 to a strength 3 AP2, poison 2+. Terminators hate that the Solar Auxilia have learned this one new trick, and they'll try and keep it from them. It's also armor bane and pinning. So with strength 3 armor bane, you can pin land raiders, pen land raiders. I have penned a land raider. 6, 12, +3, 15. Job's a good one. I've got 2 of these. No one likes me. Irrelevant to the fact that I've got 2 of them, but I got 2 of them anyway. So, yeah. Super heavies in your regular heavy slot. You really can't go wrong with that in any way, shape or form. Oh, wait, sorry. There's another super heavy. Auxilia Valdor Tank Hunter. This is the best of the super heavies in terms of the heavy support slot that you can put a tank commander on. The reason being, it's got 2 shots, it's ordnance 2 for its main weapon, but your blister skill 3. So if you turn this guy into a tank commander, pump that up to blister skill 4, you're less likely to miss with both shots. You should at least hit with one of them unless you're unlucky, preferably 2 shots will hit. Additionally, you can give this guy Tank Hunter, so you've got a strength 10, AP1 ordnance gun with 2 shots, so you're rolling 2d6 taking the highest, and if you give it Tank Hunter you can re-roll that 2d6 to get a higher roll. It's concussive, which it doesn't really matter unless you shooting at gargantuan creatures, not so common in 30k, but it's got shock pulse, so any vehicle, including super heavy vehicles, that suffers a penetrating hit because it's 5 snapshots. It's excellent at reducing incoming fire coming back at you when you're facing off against other super heavies, Baneblade, Knights, whatever. It's also got a dangerous reactor core similar to the Infernus. It just means when it does go boom, it really goes boom. Slightly irritatingly, it's only got 1 sponsor-mounted autocannon. That's not irritating from a rules perspective, it just, the asymmetry really bugs me on the model. But you can give it armoured ceramite, make it a bit more resistant, 6 hull points. This is your super heavy destroyer. You can also take 0-1 Cyclops remote demolitions units. 70 points for the basic one, comes with a demolition charge. They're only tough at 6, 2 wounds with a 4+ save. And unlike the tarantulas, which have a similar profile, 3+ save, you can stick them at the back of the board or in firing lanes, and the enemy has to kind of come to them. These have to go towards the enemy, and they're not that hard to kill basically. And for 70 points for your basic blast, which is very good, strength 9 AP3 large blast ordnance. You have to take several of them to make it a viable unit, so probably take 3 at least. That's 210 points, maybe 1, maybe 2 will get through. And because it's going to be centered on the model, you're not covering everything in the same way that you would be with a basilisk shot, for example. So I just really don't like these. Like fluff wise, they're fucking cool, but probably shouldn't have sworn there. Oh well. Fluff wise, these are really cool, but I don't really see them getting much use in game. I mean, you can upgrade them with a D weapon, but then you're paying 120 points for each one. And like I said, you really want to take 3 to get tactical use out of it. That's 360 points for a single 3-inch blast D weapon. Leave them at home. They're taking up a heavy support slot. You've only got 3 heavy support slots. Why not take 3 Malcador tanks or 3 Infernuses, or an Infernus, a Valdor, and a Malcador battle tank? They're much better. Obviously, they're costing you a lot more points, but they're far more survivable. Being super heavies, requires a D weapon to take them out in a single go. These guys, unless you're going for something fluff based or I don't know, if anyone thinks they've got a really good way of using these so you get the points value out of it without having to have some very specific circumstance, I'd leave this out. Also not a fan of the models. Lords of War, you've got all your basic Bane Blade chassis. You've got the battle cannon, you've got the Stormlord, which has a 40 model transport capacity, so if you're going to take the Ogrins, this is the Baneblade I would stick them in to get them across the field, and they can assault out of it. So you've got a 12-inch move, 6-inch disembark, then you charge. So, you know, that's a potential 30-inch move and charge there. Very tasty. You can also shoot out of it, and it's got big bloody weapons, Strength 6 AP3, Vulcan Mega Bolter. And remember, you can turn this into a tank commander, give it preferred enemy infantry, ballistic skill 4. If it doesn't move, you can fire that weapon twice, that's 30 shots. Ballistic skill 4, Strength 6 AP3. That will demolish, absolutely demolish, any Legiones Astartes unit. That'll take down a unit of Castellax as well. I've only got 3+ armor saves. You can be wounded on 5s, but 30 shots, bloody hell. You got your Volcano Cannon, range D if you don't want any friends. You got your Storm Sword, that's 10-inch blast, strength 10, AP1, ignores cover. You know, horrible, but brilliant. Stormblade, that's your multi-profile giant plasma gun. I've got one of these. I really like plasma, and I like to have the ability to fire 2 shots or 1 shot. So there's a bit of tactical flexibility there. And then you've got the Storm Hammer. It brings the storm in more ways than one. This thing's got a hull-mounted las cannon. It's got a hull-mounted dual battle cannon. Ordnance 2 large blast twin-linked. Strength 8 AP3. And then it's got a turret-mounted storm hammer cannon. Massive blast, 7 inches, shred, pinning, primary weapon, essentially ordnance, strength 9 AP2. Oh yeah, it's got 6 sponsor-mounted multi-lasers, which you can upgrade to las cannons as well, which everything can fire at a separate target. And you can upgrade those 6 sponsor-mounted weapons individually, so you could have 2 multi-lasers and a las cannon on each side, or you could have a multi-laser, a heavy bolter, and a las cannon on each side. The amount of firepower this thing puts out is ridiculous. The main thing to note about this, though, is 555 points before any upgrade. You can upgrade it to have targeters, which will give you ballistic skill 4. Then you can upgrade it to be a tank commander, ballistic skill 5, and you can give it armored ceramite, and that's basically going to put you at 600 points. Because of a 25% Lord of War limit in 30k, you're going to have a 2,500 point army to fit this in. But 2,500 points is probably what I usually play at 30k. Sort of 2,000 to 3,000 points is the best way to play 30k. It recommends that in the rules. So 2,500 points isn't an unusual game size to play, and it lets you bring these giant sort of beasts. This thing is just ridiculous. I can't afford one, that's the only reason I don't have one. But it's beautiful in its bloodshedding capability. As I mentioned with the Engineers, they make Thalax and Castellax optional heavy sport options. I don't really see the point in taking the Thalax because you're taking these over the other heavy sport choices that you've got, which are your Lehman Russ variants and your Malcador super heavy tanks. The Castellax Battle Automata, toughness 7, 4 wounds, 3+ save, 5+ invulnerable versus ranged attacks, and they've got strength 6 AP3 weaponry. You can make them ballistic skill 5, and they reduce cover saves by -1. You can give them darkfire cannons, which are 2-shot lance weaponry that gets hot. And if you stick the Engineer with these guys, with some servo arms on the automata, he can repair their wounds. And they're monstrous creatures, so they ignore You know, they have moved through cover, and these bring something to your army that you can't get really. I mean, you've got the Ogrins, but their toughness 5 makes them susceptible to being insta-killed, and they've only got a 4+ save. These bring a level of resilience to the army, which you might be missing in a foot slogging element. But in general, unless you're going for something themed, I think leave these guys at home. These guys aren't a bad option, but the tanks are better in the heavy support choices. So then you get onto the Imperial Militia. So that's a broad overview of all the sort of variety of units that you can have in the Solar Auxilia. You've got super heavies in your heavy support slot, which is disgustingly brilliant. You've got a few flyer options in your fast attack. You can go crazy with tanks. You can fill heavy support. You can fill fast attack with tanks. In your troop section, you can basically have Vindicators with troops inside of them. So you can go, and they're 5 hull points, armor 13, 4 upgrades at the front. This is a tank nuts wet dream as an army goes. The models are beautiful. You've got a lot of tactical flexibility in terms of you know, how you run your HQs, how you run your units. You're firing Overwatch on a 5 and a 6. The tank commander is just a fantastic upgrade for any tank that you're eligible to put it onto. Gives it all these extra special rules, ups their ballistic skill. Like it's really fantastic. At 55 points, it's a bargain of an upgrade. Special character, yeah, it's all right. Legate commander, upgrade him to a Lord Marshal, makes him that bit more survivable, and you also get to pick your Warlord trait, which is any that he's eligible from. So you can, I mean, I would choose one of these for fluff's sake, but if you wanted to, the Lord Marshal can choose any of the Warlord traits available in the Warhammer 40,000 rulebook as well. So that's the Solar Auxilia from the Crusade Imperialis army list.
Hello, it's me again. Pretty good video, right? Well, it's okay. I like it. Please leave your comments, feedbacks, thoughts, anything in the description below. Let us know what you think, whether you want to see more of these. My thoughts and feedbacks are, you know, you talked about Ogrins not being really good, need transports, things like that. I'd just get a big squad of like 9 of the guys and just march them up the centre of the table. That would be pretty intimidating. I like the fact that you can get tanks in the fast attack slot, tanks in the fast attack slot, tanks in the heavy slot. You could just go tank crazy with this list. It's certainly a very interesting book. Anyway, I'm going to sign off. There's going to be some Solar Auxilia fights coming up, so stay tuned for that. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Comments in the feedback below. Please visit Rob's blog and give him a prod as well. And yeah, thank you very much. Happy wargaming.